Today's video should be relatively short and sweet. It features this Ecto-1 wrapped in cellophane. Also, we have another casting to go along with it. So let's go ahead and unwrap this Ecto-1 and we'll give you a bit of the background. The reason why this Ecto was sent to me was for repair. As you can see, the base is not really attached, either are the rear wheels. The second car was sent to repair these rear wheels. And as mentioned before, I really don't perform any customs or restorations for anyone outside of myself. The reason being, there's just too many things that can happen. And the last video was a perfect example. I had issues with the primer, and then we had some paint chipping. So not only can it take a lot of time, it could take more money than it's worth, and then also you can totally ruin a car. But this one's pretty cut and dry. I simply need to draw out the post, tap it, insert a screw, and fix the wheel situation. And these wheels are going to need to be glued back in. Now this casting has a bit of history with the owner. They actually used to weigh these down and race them downhill. You can see the interior is missing, but instead it's full of lead. It's really heavy. In fact, we'll go ahead and weigh it. So we're going to take the Johnny Lightning that he included in the packaging and weigh it. 1.55 ounces. We're going to take the Ecto, minus the rear wheels, and weigh this. 7.20 ounces. It's a very heavy cast. In order to start this repair, I'm going to actually drill out this epoxy that is present where the hole is. They actually use that to glue in the front axles. We still have a bit of cleanup to do here, so I'm going to use this reamer here. This is a body reamer made for reaming out the holes of RC car bodies, Lex end bodies, for the mounting post. That looks to be clean enough. Now this post did have a bit of damage. I assume it was from the original removal of the base. So I went ahead and ground it all the way down and then drilled it out. The reason why I ground it down so far is the base portion of this post is a lot thicker than the top portion. So now we should have something to grab into. But that leaves one issue. The screws that I normally use are not long enough to actually grab onto the body of the car from the base. So the easy solution is just use longer screws. Now the owner of this did not care if we swapped out the rear wheels or not. I do think he'd like to use these original wheels, but the axles are broken. Now these are a Johnny Lightning wheel, I believe, and you may think to yourself, well, how am I going to attach a new axle to that wheel? It's very simple. Most of these Johnny Lightning wheels are a two-piece wheel. You've got the tire, the black portion, and then you've got the center portion, which would be the rim, or in this case, more of a hubcap. We can simply just press down on the axle portion, pop the center cap out, and now you can see how that axle stays in place. Just take it out. To make the new axles, we're going to reuse the pins that were already in there. We're just going to have to cut them down a bit. We're going to use the method I showed in a few videos back using the tube. This is a heavy casting, so I'd like to make it as strong as possible. And regular brass wire or regular wire is not going to be as strong as this tube is going to be. The first thing I need to do is actually take away some of the material in this base. You can see the tube does not fit down in there. Another reason why I'm not going to use regular rod is there's not enough room between the actual cap and the tire to use something like a crimp cap or even a bead to keep the wheel in place. I don't want to just do the pinch method on these. And one of the reasons why, if he's going to use this again for racing, a simple crimp on a brass tube is not going to hold up. I'm going to use a small file to widen out this slot. In the middle of filing down the rear, the front wheels fell off. And here they are. Just two axles butted up against each other with some glue. So we're going to do the same thing to the front, because this eventually would have fell off anyway. I've already installed the rear wheels. These were the initial problem. Once I've got the tubes filed flush, I'm going to take a small finger bit and just ream out the holes a little. Now, since this could be used for racing again, we want as little friction as possible. That seems to be about perfect. Now, the original front axles were full of glue. They didn't spin very freely. I've cleaned them up a little bit. Next, we'll cut one of them down just a small amount. Also, the original front tires are full of glue. So I'm going to take that same finger bit and clean these out. And now you can see our wheel spins nice and free. I'm going to dab a small amount of glue on the end of the axle and insert it into the newly installed tube. Now, we don't want to push in it all the way, but far enough so it's not too wobbly, because we want the wheel to still spin freely. Once those are dry, we can go ahead and reinstall our center caps. I apologize for the noise in the background. We just got back from vacation and the wife is doing some laundry in the background. You may hear the dryer and washer going. The last thing we're going to do, you'll notice that all these wheels have a red dot in the center except for one. We're going to go ahead and paint a little red dot in the center. Now they all match. I ended up with a slight change of plans. Originally, I had epoxied these axles into place. Well, I took it for a test run on a Hot Wheels track and the rear axle actually just popped right off. The epoxy was not strong enough. Now, I don't believe the owner is actually going to be racing this any longer, but I wanted to make it as strong as possible. And the reason why the axle popped off is, again, this is almost 8 ounces. When you say 8 ounces, it doesn't sound like much. 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So this casting is half a pound. That is a lot for a 64 scale car. Now all I have left is reassembly. We're going to slide the rear portion of the axle into the actual body or the casting, and then simply add our longer screw, and we are done. And she lives to die another day. Now, to give you an idea how heavy this casting actually is, the rotating stand has a lot of trouble actually rotating this vehicle. You may also notice this casting's not perfect. There's some chips here and there, and the windshields, or all the windows rather, are a little rough. Well, you have to keep in mind there's a bunch of lead that I assume is epoxied into place. And this car was not sent to me for a restoration. It was simply sent to me to attach the chassis, or the base rather, to the casting, and to fix the wheels. That was it. And that's all we did. Now I can ship it back to the owner and hopefully he's happy with it. Normally I would not take the time to create a video on such a simple process as far as tapping out the chassis and repairing some axles, but I found this car very interesting. Not every day you see half-pound Hot Wheels, and it had a really unique story, so I thought, well, why not? Maybe the viewers will like that. At any rate, hopefully you enjoyed this video and maybe you learned a thing or two. I'd like to take this time to thank my top patrons, which are Corbin Toll, Mark Kidd, and Matchbox Garage. Also would like to thank everyone that supports the channel and watches the videos. If you see any of the tools that I use in this video, be sure to check out the links. They're located below the video in the description. I have 3 Amazon links, one for Canada, one for US, and one for the UK. You can find all the tools that I use within those links. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post those below. And as always, thanks for watching.